2007, when we embarked on the consultation in the lead up to Sustainable Sydney 2030, housing affordability was a big issue facing Sydney, same with traffic congestion. Remaining competitive as a global city was a challenge for Australia because some investment had been moving to other cities within the Australasian Pacific region. And basically, I suppose our ageing infrastructure and being able to maintain and to improve on that, they were the key urban challenges. And probably one that affected was a growing underclass who weren't being heard or within the inner city, and people were being displaced because of gentrification. So they were the main urban challenges facing the city back in 2007. First of all, Sustainable Sydney 2030 is about the people, and it's the people's vision for the city. So we needed to engage the community as part of that journey so that it was a plan that would, stand the test of time and could be implemented over the next 25 years. So that was why the decision was made to embark on a very comprehensive community engagement process. It was the most extensive community process that the city had ever engaged with. And as part of that, we obviously developed a strategy. So our community engagement unit was responsible for putting together the strategy. They looked at what was best practice in other global and international cities. They looked at the demographic profile of our city. And then they looked at, most importantly, who were the underrepresented or the seldom engaged, who were the often engaged and who were the sometimes engaged. And it was about making sure that those people or those groups which were seldom engaged were heavily engaged in the process. For us was about maintaining the momentum, and so keeping the profile high, and branding was very important to that. The Sydney 2030 logo was developed very early on, and we ensured that when we outlined what the consultation strategy would be and the matrix, we were always looking at new and innovative ways to engage. So some ideas popped up whilst we were on that journey. One such example is the 2030 Phone the Future, which was essentially a booth that could go around to different community events and schools, and that was to try and engage younger people. And so it was a comfy chair and kind of a phone box, and that you could record a message, and that would be what you wanted to see the city look like in 2030. And that was a really innovative process that wasn't initially developed at the beginning. It came up through a forum where somebody had suggested that that would be a good idea. So we harnessed that idea and rolled that out. Branding was important so that people could recognise what it was. The centre of Sydney is quite small in size. I think it's about 26 square kilometres, but we have a heavy influence in the broader metropolitan Sydney. So we just didn't want to engage with obviously the people who were the residents or the businesses within the city of Sydney, but we wanted to engage more widely. So branding was important, so that message was out there that people would understand that that logo represented the future vision for Sydney, and it is fairly iconic. So banners across the CBD, billboards and posters at bus stops and bus shelters, and internet and magazine advertising also form part of that overall strategy. The community engagement team looked at what was, tried and tested and worked for different groups. We focused on community forums, and there was a lot of pre-information that was sent out to the people who were attending, because we wanted people to be ready to contribute once they had the forums and that they attended the forums. So it was about getting the message out there. So it was lots of public forums where we got individual groups. Key experts would come in and discuss various issues so that there could be facts given to people so that they understood the context of why we were wanting to embark on this change. There were pop-up stands and community events. There were postcards that we had that you could post your message back to the future. There was media advertising, there was radio program snippets about Sydney 2030 on the local community radio stations. So we really just tried to determine what were the forums that we would reach out to the most people and what was most appropriate. And we used traditional methods as well as non-traditional methods. We also had champions for Sydney, so they were people who were out there spreading our messages in the business community, and they were acting as advocates for us. As for challenges, I think it was just about maintaining that momentum and not losing sight of what we ultimately were working towards, which was obviously Sustainable Sydney 2030. And one of the key principles to come out of that is obviously to maintain the momentum with the extensive community consultation in the delivery of the plan over the next 20 to 25 years. And that's a principle that the city adheres to, and we are, committed to best practice community engagement techniques going forward, and it's, has still continued to focus very highly in our, plan making and our decision making going forward.